Motion theory. The illusion of stillness. Close your eyes and listen. Use your imagination. It's better than any video I can produce, or turn on closed captioning if you prefer to read along.
Okay, take a moment right now. Just feel your chair, maybe the floor under your feet. Feel the air around you. Seems pretty still, right?
It does. It feels solid, dependable, static even.
Yeah, exactly. Most of us, I think, we experience the world as this place made of solid, fixed things.
But you know that feeling of utter dependability, it's actually based on this massive data filtering operation your brain is doing constantly.
Your filter?
Yeah, basically an illusion. When your brain constructs nonstop, really just so you can navigate the world without, well, being completely overwhelmed by the raw reality of it.
Okay, so that's the core of our deep dive today then. We're exploring this idea that fundamentally there isn't really any stillness. There's only structured motion.
Exactly. The things we call solid. There's just highly durable, long-lived rhythms, patterns of motion.
And stillness itself is just a really successful compression, like a zip file for movement.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
High-efficiency compression of constant high-speed movement.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to look at the physics behind this kinetic reality.
And also the mental hacks, the brain tricks that hide it from us.
Right. And then how adopting this kind of motion lens can actually change how you approach things. Problems, design, even medicine, maybe.
We're going to try and pull back the curtain a bit, show you that the world is way more alive, more kinetic, more synchronized than you probably think.
And that stability. It's just a very specific, very coordinated kind of chaos.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this. That table in front of you, or maybe the desk you're at, why isn't it actually just a chunk of stuff?
Well, scientifically speaking, it's definitely not just a chunk of stuff. It's more like a meticulously organized lockstep.
Lockstep.
Of electrons and nuclei, yeah. Arranged in a specific lattice structure that we happen to label oak or steel or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So when we talk about structure here, what we really mean is synchronized motion loops.
Loops of motion?
And the absolutely crucial thing to grasp, I think, is the speed of this internal movement. Every single atom in that lattice, it's vibrating roughly 10 to the power of 13 times.
Yeah.
Every second.
Wait, 10 to the power of 13? That's 10 trillion, 10 quadrillion.
10 quadrillion times per second, yeah.
That kind of agitation, it's just impossible to visualize. And we usually think of that internal jittering as heat, right?
Exactly. Those tiny packets of motion traveling through the lattice, they're called phonons.
Yeah.
Temperature is basically just the measure of that agitation rate, how many phonons are zipping around.
Okay.
And hardness, then. It isn't really a property of the substance itself. It's more a measure of how strongly that particular pattern, that lattice vibration, resists being retuned or reorganized by some outside force.
So using the language from motion theory you mentioned, a solid structure is a motion loop that has really high coherence, meaning its pattern is stable.
High coherence, yes, that's the S factor.
Yeah.
And it also needs a low leak rate, the R factor, meaning it doesn't easily lose energy or fall apart when, human scale forces interact with it.
Right. High S, low R. Makes sense. And this understanding, it leads to maybe the most mind-bending part of all this for me. You never actually touched that solid table.
Yeah, the feeling of contact. It's probably one of the most phenomenal illusions we experience every single day.
So what's actually happening when my hand, presses down on the table?
Well, your electrons, the ones in your hand and the table's electrons, they interact. They exchange momentum, but they do it through the electromagnetic field.
Through the field, not by actually hitting.
Exactly. They repel each other violently, actually, at that scale. And that repulsion generates the push that we feel, the thing physics calls normal force.
So contact it's not a merger. It's not things physically colliding. It's more like an electromagnetic negotiation.
That's a fantastic way to describe it. A negotiation, or maybe a truce, where two synchronized patterns just refuse to merge. They maintain their distinct boundaries because of that repulsion.
Wow. That completely reframes how you think about just interacting with anything physical.
It does. And what's truly fascinating, I think, is then realizing how our own nervous system handles all this. It's relentless underlying kinetic activity.
Because if we had to consciously register, 10 decibel vibrations per second for everything,
we'd be instantly overloaded.
Yeah.
Kaput. Yeah. The brain has to compress this absolute torrent of motion data into useful, stable symbols.
Stable symbols like table, chair, floor.
Right. So we can actually function. Pick up a cup, walk across a room without processing quadrillions of vibrations.
It's basically filtering out the universe's raw signal to give us a usable, compressed version, like a heavily edited movie.
Pretty much. And our sources mention 3 really incredible hacks the brain uses to manufacture this illusion of stillness.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first one is time windowing. See, our perception isn't like a smooth video stream. It actually binds activity together across a small time window, maybe tens to hundreds of milliseconds, into a single unified moment that we call now.
Ah, okay, so anything flickering faster than that.
It just gets averaged out. It fuses. We perceive it as continuous or steady.
Like an old fluorescent light, or even modern LEDs on AC power. They're blinking like crazy, 100 or 120 times a second.
But they look totally steady to us. Perfect example of that compression window at work.
Okay, so time windowing is one hack. What's the next?
The second really leans on the brain being, well, the ultimate prediction machine.
To predict stability.
Precisely. The brain is incredibly efficient. It wants to save energy, so it ignores repetition. If that desk or table just keeps its synchronized beat day after day, year after year,
the brain stops paying attention.
the cortex basically stops dedicating critical bandwidth to constantly broadcasting the details of that stable structure. It gets tagged safe or stable or still. Gets a little sticker, you know?
Ah, I like that. Stability gets a sticker, novelty, or change that demands attention.
Exactly. Stability is ignored to minimize cognitive load.
Okay, time windowing, prediction. What's the third hack?
The third one is about self-correction. It's called micromotion cancellation.
You mean like tiny movements we make?
That's right. We are never truly perfectly still, even when we try to be. Your eyes are constantly making tiny jumps and jitters, saccades, tremors. Your muscles are always making micro adjustments just to keep you balanced. There's even a constant sort of hum from your inner ear system.
Right. All this internal noise.
Exactly. And to accurately track the external world, the brain has to identify and then actively subtract all that internal movement noise, filter itself out.
Whoa, wait. So if I'm trying to meditate, say, and achieve stillness, and I start noticing that faint ringing in my ears, or maybe a tiny tremor in my hands, what I'm actually doing is I'm becoming aware of the very things my brain usually cancels out to create the feeling of stillness.
That's a really powerful way to put it, yes. You're essentially temporarily dialing down that cancellation function.
So the subtracted internal motion, the stuff that normally equals external stillness in my perception, suddenly becomes perceptible itself.
Precisely. Stillness, again, isn't the absence of motion. It's achieved by a successful habitual subtraction of motion, mostly our own.
Okay, this is fascinating. So if the brain operates by identifying these reliable, predictable patterns, these stable motion loops, it's essentially defining the world through what you called coherence contracts.
Yeah, a coherence contract. It's like the fundamental guarantee in the physical world. A thing, a rock, a cup, a building, it's basically a promise.
A promise.
A promise that if you interact with it, if you apply a force, the pattern will generally hold its shape and deliver a predictable consequence. The more reliably that pattern holds, the more solid we perceive the thing to be.
And we can actually play with these contracts, right? There are everyday illusions that sort of expose the kinetic matrix underneath.
Absolutely. There are simple ways to see the brain's filtering in action. The saccade invisibility one is maybe the easiest.
Right. You look in a mirror and flick your eyes back and forth.
Yeah. Try it. Look at one eye, then flick quickly to the other. You don't see the blur of motion, do you?
No. The world seems steady. My reflection just jumps.
Exactly. The brain literally blanks out the visual input during the eye movement. If it didn't, the entire world would seem to smear and jump around constantly, which would be incredibly disorienting.
So the brain sacrifices awareness of its own action, the eye moving, for the perception of external stability. That's wild.
It prioritizes a stable external model. Another great one is the microwave demonstration.
Yeah, the marshmallows. If you put marshmallows on a plate, maybe spread them out, and just heat them for a very short time in the microwave.
You don't get uniform melting, do you? You get this pattern, often stripes or spots of melted goo with unmelted areas in between.
Right, a zebra pattern almost.
That pattern is incredible. It's revealing the underlying standing electromagnetic wave inside the microwave cavity. While you perceive the microwave is just filling with energy somehow, the marshmallows are mapping out the actual structure of that energy.
A room-size loop of energy, as the outline put it.
Exactly. Your sensory experience of just heating is the average result. The marshmallows show you the invisible score, the actual wave pattern. You literally see the energy matrix.
And that score, that pattern, it drives home the point that solidity isn't some fixed essence. It's conditional, isn't it? It's a regime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about a diamond. It's incredibly high coherence carbon, right? Its pattern is locked super tight, very strong coherence contract.
Hardest natural substance, yeah.
But if you raise the temperature high enough, you pump enough kinetic energy into it, enough phonons, really eventually, that super stable pattern breaks down. It reorganizes into the much lower coherence structure of graphite, black carbon dust.
So the contract failed. The force, in this case heat energy, exceeded the system's budget for maintaining its coherence.
Exactly. Solidity is conditional. It depends on the forces involved.
Which brings us to things that feel almost timelessly still, like mountains. Our brains tag them as the ultimate symbol of permanence, of stillness.
But even mountains creep. They flow.
They flow, really.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Rock isn't static over geological timescales. It bends, it shifts, it flows, constantly being retuned by water, wind, gravity, tectonic pressure.
So our perception of this ancient, stable world, it's just because we're sampling it over a ridiculously short time window.
Precisely. We're listening to reality singing very long notes, but we only catch a tiny fraction of a second. Time is perhaps the greatest disguise motion has.
Okay, so if the world is fundamentally structured motion, this leads to the big practical question, right? The so what? How does seeing the motion help us actually steer it?
Yes, this isn't just abstract physics. It's a really functional toolkit, I think, for critical thinking, for diagnosis, for design.
A toolkit, how does that work?
Well, we can think about it using 3 conceptual lenses derived from this motion framework. You can apply them to analyze pretty much any system, whether it's a bridge or, say, a team dynamic.
Okay, 3 lenses. What's the first?
The first is the mode lens. This lens prompts you to ask, what are the key standing waves or traveling waves operating in this system?
Modes, like sound waves in a room.
Exactly. Rooms have acoustic modes, frequencies that resonate. Bridges have structural nodes, some of which can be dangerous, like the torsional modes that brought down the Tacoma Narrows Bridge.
Famously.
And, even our own minds seem to operate in modes. You can get locked into a mode of anxious scrolling on your phone, or maybe shift into a mode of deep, focused work.
Right, so identifying the underlying rhythm patterns, the modes, is the first step to controlling them. Okay, what's the second lens?
The second is the gradient lens. This asks, which slopes, which differences are driving change and determining direction in this system?
Gradients, like a temperature difference causing heat flow?
Precisely. Force fundamentally is just a recipe for how motion influences nearby motion. Gradients are the universal movers. Pressure gradients drive wind. Concentration gradients drive diffusion. Height gradients drive water flow.
And this extends way beyond physics, doesn't it? You could say attention flows along a gradient, maybe from low quality to high quality information.
You absolutely could. Money flows according to financial gradients.
Yeah.
Influence flows. Everything moves from high potential to low potential along some kind of slope. Identifying the key gradients tells you where the action is.
Mode lens, gradient lens, what's the third?
The third lens connects directly back to our definition of solidity and structure. It's the budget lens.
Yeah.
Using those factors, S, R, and C.
S for coherence, R for leak. What was C again?
C is for coupling, how different parts or modes of the system are linked together.
Okay, the budget lens. S, R, C. Coherence, leak, coupling. This sounds like the ultimate diagnostic tool.
I think it really can be. Let's break it down quickly. S, coherent structure. How strong and stable is the core pattern? How well does it maintain its integrity? R, leak dissipation. How quickly does energy or, say, focus bleed out of the system? Where's the friction, the decay?
Okay.
And C, coupling. This is about the connections, the channels that let energy or force or maybe information jump between different parts or modes. Are the parts too tightly linked or too loosely?
Okay, let's try applying this SRC budget lens, not to a diamond this time, but maybe to a system we all deal with, like, say, a complex project team at work that's struggling. How would we use SRC to figure out why?
Oh, that's an excellent test case.
Yeah.
Okay, so the team's failing to deliver consistently. We look at the budget. Where's the coherence S supposed to be? Maybe it's in the project plan, the technical documentation, clear goals. If that documentation is weak or outdated, your S is low. The core pattern is unstable.
Right. Makes sense. And where might the leak R be?
Leak is dissipation. In a human system like a team, high R could be things like excessive team turnover. People leaving takes knowledge and energy out. or constantly shifting priorities from management that bleeds focus, or just perpetual interruptions, meetings.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts, draining energy, breaking the flow.
Exactly. Every time someone's pulled away or context switches, the team working pattern loses coherence and energy leaks out. R goes up.
And coupling C, that's how the different parts connect, like design and engineering.
Yeah. Or maybe engineering and testing or marketing. Are the couplings too tight? Does a tiny change in design spec cause massive delays downstream because everything is rigidly linked?
Or maybe they're too weak. Information isn't flowing effectively between testing and development, so bugs don't get fixed efficiently.
Precisely. The wrong coupling strength can cripple a system. So using the budget lens helps you shift from just asking what's wrong to asking more targeted questions. Where is the core pattern losing its coherence? S. What's the dominant leak draining energy? R. And are the couplings, C, helping or hindering the flow?
That's incredibly practical. You can see the relevance across so many fields here.
Definitely. In engineering, I mean, almost every advance is about better mode control, right? Stronger bridges, quieter rooms, more sensitive microphones. It's all about managing those standing and traveling waves, optimizing S, minimizing unwanted R, tuning C.
And in medicine, you mentioned.
Oh, it's fundamental. Think about heart arrhythmia. That's literally a failure of rhythm, the heart's pattern losing coherence, S. And aesthesia isn't just an off switch. It actively tunes brain rhythms, changing the modes of consciousness.
Wow.
And understanding motion as flow helps us model diseases like cancer. Metastasis, the spread of cancer, can be seen as a kind of flow hijack. Malignant cells exploiting the body's existing motion structures, blood vessels, lymphatics to travel.
Exploiting the body's C factor, the coupling channels.
In a way, yes. And finally, think about the attention economy. This kinetic framework, it explains almost everything happening there.
How so?
Well, social media feeds, notifications, viral trends, what are they? They're basically resonators. They're designed to hook into fundamental human emotional and cognitive rhythms.
Exploit our existing patterns.
And keep us locked in a loop. Amplify certain modes of thought or feeling. So if you want to build healthier digital platforms, the goal isn't to make them dead or inert. It's to make them appropriately damped. Meaning they need mechanisms to absorb and dissipate the energy of those potentially harmful loops, rather than constantly amplifying them. Increase R for the bad loops, maybe strengthen C for positive connections. It's about tuning the rhythm.
So we really do circle back to that central paradox, don't we? Stillness is this incredibly successful, high-efficiency story. A useful illusion, as you said.
Yeah, a story told by your nervous system, basically so you don't have to solve Maxwell's equations every time you want to pick up your coffee cup.
Right. And knowing about the underlying, all those electron waves, lattice modes vibrating, the EM fields pushing back, the brain rhythms locking into habit.
It doesn't have to diminish the everyday experience. It doesn't make the coffee cup less real. It just...
Yeah.
It adds the background music, the music of reality playing underneath the performance.
Solid is motion with a long memory. I think that's the one-liner takeaway here, isn't it?
That captures it beautifully, yeah. You're not holding a fixed chunk of inert matter. You're interacting with a pocket of incredibly synchronized energy that, for this moment, has agreed to behave like cup.
So, for a final thought, maybe a practice for people listening.
Yeah, try adopting that budget lens perspective tonight, maybe. Just a simple exercise. Switch off any obvious mechanical noise, the fan, the AC, the TV, and just listen. Listen to the house breathe.
What will you hear?
You'll start to hear the score of stillness revealing itself. Pipes might ping as they cool. Floorboards might tick. Maybe the subtle hum of the fridge or air pressure changes. It's all motion.
The house settling into its own rhythm.
Exactly. And then tomorrow, when you pick up that coffee cup or your phone or whatever, you can call it solid. That's fine. That's the useful label. But just for a second, remember what you're really holding.
A highly reliable, meticulously organized pocket of structured motion.
A pattern that, for a little while anyway, has successfully maintained its coherence contract with the universe. It's quite something when you think about it that way.